There's only one person to try and talk me down from my feeling that this entire country has gone completely bloody barking mad. Peter Bleksley, former Met Police detective and a man who, whenever you're on this show, people say he should run the police in the United Kingdom.
They wouldn't touch me with a barge pole.
Here's the thought for you. I was once asked this on a television programme, Pete, because I know you and you know me. What is a barge pole? Have you ever seen a barge pole?
No, because they've got motors these days and they steer barges. In the old days,
so the
poles.
this big pole. Can you imagine? Yeah. Don't touch me with a barge pole as you're waving this massive bloody thing around. Yes. Anyway, so I just want to calmly ask you, so I'm going to set it out like we did last hour. So explain to me, I'm 60 next year, we now live in a world, two pieces of news today that knocked me sideways. Career criminals with more than 100 previous convictions are being spared jail in more than 4,000 cases in the last 15 years. Offenders who are repeat offenders, some of the worst offenders, have been told, no, it's fine, don't go to jail, because let's be honest, it's not going to work. Hold that thought. And then this crazy piece of news today that zombie knife-wielding thugs who have bought them either on the internet for crime or however they've got them, if they go to a police station, they can get £10 as an amnesty or as compensation. Do we have the Mike caller this morning? This is brilliant. This lady, so frustrated, rang Mike Graham's breakfast show this morning. Ready for this, Peter? Yep. Have a listen to this. Let's play it again.
I think me and my husband are going to grab all the knives out of our kitchen drawer and go and take them down to the police station. Got a busy weekend ahead of us. It could pay for our dinner out on Saturday night.
John, zombie knives, go.
What are the police going to do? Say if they pull someone over or they walk it and they've got a zombie knife on them and they say, what you do? They say, oh, we're just taking it to the police station, mate, to hand it in for me tenner. And they'll get away with it. What's it all about?
Help me out, Pete.
It's very difficult to argue with those contributors. Very valid points.
What's going on? Am I missing the point here?
The establishment, not only the policing establishment, but the establishment at large, whether you want to regard that as being the civil service, senior police, Home Office, wheresoever it may be, is really in the grip of very liberal thinking, fluffy kind of wokerati types. And this has been creeping in for years. I think it probably dates back to 1997, certainly, when Blair came into power, with this whole liberalisation of the criminal justice system. So punishments have been watered down, sentences have become shorter, fewer people are getting the sentences they deserve, and they have manifestly failed to appreciate that as the population of the country increases, so the prison population will increase. As certain people come into this country hell-bent on making a living out of crime, they will eventually find their way, we hope, into the criminal justice system. And it currently is an absolute shambolic mess. We've seen what it can do recently in terms of rioters.
Yeah, far right.
That big broad brush with Starmer again. Let's paint everybody.
Everybody's far right. Yeah.
Everyone's far right.
Yeah, everybody. If you disagree with Starmer, you're far right.
Yeah, exactly. Or racist. There's another easy tag to,
absolutely.
For a bit of finger pointing. Don't forget that.
You're racist and you're far right.
Yeah, indeed. So the criminal justice system in its entirety is manifestly not fit for purpose. Of course, they've made it work of late to deal with those rioters, but of course, what it really has shown is that if they can make it work when it suits them, then why can't they make it work when we, the public, whose government's obligation is to keep us safe, why can't they make it work all the time so that we can deal with this absolute epidemic of knife crime?
So let's talk about that epidemic of knife crime. And I said this, I've been saying it for days. I think, by the way, I had a biscuit given to me by Sam, and I think they've done something too, because I've got gut ache already. I'll have you lot. In terms of the rioters, right? So for me, I don't want to see thugs attacking the police. But the speed with which those people were arrested on television, taken to court and thrown in the clink with judges going, this is outrageous. Let's bring this to knife crime, which I've been saying all week. Why are we not out there on camera arresting people with knives, taking them to the clink, court appearances, straight into jail? You can't tell me anymore it's because we haven't got space, because they cleared 500 out to put the rioters in, and that was a politically based decision. We know that. We're not condoning the rioters. What we're saying is, if you show that the police are suddenly strong, if you show that the justice system can suddenly be switched on and everybody knows what they're doing because Starmer wants to make a good point and a relevant point, if you're going to stand up and say, I just want to protect mosques, you need to protect people on the streets of the United Kingdom. Like Leicester Square the other day, an 11-year-old and a mother being stabbed for no reason. That bloke, yes, he's already gone to... But I don't understand. If the police are suddenly strong, they can suddenly do their jobs. You're right. It should be across the board. This knife story today is utterly appalling. And to me, smacks of where this country is going, and I don't have a better way of putting this, than by saying we seem to care more about the perpetrators, whether they're long-term criminals walking free in this soft justice scandal, or we're saying to people who have got a zombie knife, why'd you buy a zombie knife? Because if you buy a zombie knife, it is for criminal intent. Nobody buys a zombie knife to polish and go, that's nice. So we seem to be saying to those people, we're so desperate to get you now, so we're going to give you a tenner. They should be arrested and thrown in jail for having one.
Of course, they should be stopped, searched.
Can't be. It's racist.
Well, actually, funnily enough, that catastrophic report that came out today about the Metropolitan Police, where they got lambasted across almost all of their areas of operation, the only smidgen of credit they came out with from that report with was over their work on stop and search, where it said that the overwhelming majority of the stops were reasonable and well carried out and all that kind of thing. But of course, the numbers of stop and search have been catastrophically cut.
Why? Why is there this anti-stop and search feeling? You know, you were in the police. If saying to me, in basic layman's terms, right, on the streets, people carry knives for whatever reasons. Crime, the kids say, I need it, otherwise I'll be attacked. If you go to them, search them, take it off them and arrest them if they have one, is that not a deterrent?
Of course it would be.
So why the hell wouldn't somebody say that's a good idea?
Theresa May, ask her. Sadiq Khan, ask him. And others who have criticised the police for stop and search, who have said it's disproportionate that too many young black people get stopped and searched in comparison to white people.
You know more than me.
Look at the levels of homicide in London, particularly with teenagers and young adults. It is overwhelmingly, tragically, young black people getting killed. And the stats bear it out, they're getting killed by other young black people. So it's actually not disproportionate or racist. It's actually doing your job to focus on the communities that are committing those types of crimes. It is right. It is the thing they should be doing. But of course, you had that idiot Theresa May who was responsible almost single-handedly for destroying so much of British policing, and that tide of teenage bloodshed that tragically flows through the streets of our cities actually should float to her front door, because that's where the responsibility for so much of this lies. Khan, no fan of stop and search. They criticise the police. And, of course, the fluffy, liberal wokerati who prowl the corridors of policing power won't stand up to the politicians and say, we're saving lives here, we're out on the street, and if you don't like it. But all of a sudden, the Prime Minister has fallen in love with robust policing. Let's see how long that love affair lasts.
I don't think it will last. I think that's the point, and I said it, and I will repeat. I think it's fantastic that it happened so quickly, but you can't then say we can't be like that. You have to do it across the board. Some stuff for you. Joanna from Salisbury. £10 a knife, not even the cost. Photographed on CCTV, a watch list of those who's bringing them in. These gangs really too stupid to fall for it. But I don't think the police are being that clever, are they?
No, it's a Home Office initiative that's cost £300,000 to set up. They anticipate that they'll hand out £14,000 worth of £10 notes to people. Well, we'll wait and see on that.
Are they going to hand out cash?
Well, again, we'll wait and see.
Our next messenger is called Nick Larkin. Do you know what his mother's called?
Go on.
Marlarkin. Wasn't that the Darling Buds of May? You didn't. You're old enough for that. Zombie knives being banned ranged in length from 15 to 24 inches. A Google search today came up with a 2-foot-long deluxe bolo machete for $29.99. 2 foot long with a blade of 18 inches. So what's the bleeding point?
So you'll lose 20 quid if you hand that in, won't you?
No, he's saying that wouldn't be nicked because the range is 15 to 24 inches, so you get away with a 2. Who has a 2-foot machete?
Oh, many people do. Go on to social media. I can show you reams of footage of people chasing around Southend, London, trying to hack chunks out of each other. It's all out there on social media, the footage. People are using these machetes on an almost daily basis.
So if you have 100 previous convictions, says this caller, you don't get the punishment that fits the crime. But if you have first offence of disagreeing with two-tier key, you go straight to jail and you do not get £200.
And they talk about inconsistencies in policing. Well, there seems to be...
Ian Collins had the most amazing message earlier. I'll throw it to you. This bloke said, so let me get this right? If I'm carrying a brick, I can get 10 years, and if I'm carrying a knife, I can get £10. But that's true.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very serious matter, so forgive me for chuckling. It's quite an interesting comparison. If you throw a brick, you might get 10 years if you've been charged with the offence of riot,
If you say something disrespectful to somebody now online, free speech is out the window in Starmer's Britain, you could go to jail, but you can have a zombie knife, which probably is for criminal intent, and you get given £10.
Well, if we're talking about online, I think that social media platforms should police themselves, and the police can get on with policing the streets, funnily enough, because that's what I'd like them to do.
No,
let's remember,
it's far more interesting. It's far more important to police hurtful things like, you're a horrible man, Peter, I'm going to jail for saying that.
But
But I'm carrying a zombie knife, it's fine.
But we've seen thousands of them mobilised to get out on the streets and deal with violent disorder. Are they going to deal with knife crime? Are they going to deal with shoplifting? Look at the high streets that are blighted by people going into shops and stealing with impunity, filling up huge, great bags and walking out unchallenged. That affects the economy. It affects people's attitudes towards going to the high street. Who wants to go there when you're highly likely to bump into people hooded up, nicking a load of gear out of a shop?
Mark says, could you make this point to Bleksley? Someone made it earlier. So if I'm caught with a zombie knife, all I've got to say to the police person is I was on the way to your station to hand it in for a tenner, mate.
Whereas I'd prefer to go straight to jail, do not pass go, do not collect £10.
Just a quick question for me, Bleksley. I've just bought a couple of what I thought were steak knives from a rather large company. They turned out to be carving knives for £5. After now debating whether to return them or take them down to my local police station and increase my profits, says Alan in Northampton, what would you say?
I think some of the callers and contributors have got a terrific sense of humour, and I'm smiling at some of these.
I recommend Peter Bleksley for Minister for Policing and Crime for when the Reform Party is the new government.
Well, we might have a bit of a wait, mightn't we?
Yeah. Jez, Pete, the law around possession of bladed articles is without lawful authority or reasonable excuse. Taking a knife to a police station to hand it in would be regarded as a reasonable excuse and would not be prosecuted, says Stephen.
It would, yes. The reasonable excuse clause is there.
Elaine, try finding a bleeding police station that's open nowadays. That's the problem you've got.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, I just wanted a final story with you because we're always having on. Extinction Rebellion, more those unwashed middle-class idiots. A bit like... They plan to storm Windsor Castle.
Yeah.
XR activists aim to break into the royal estate, block roads and target hotels during 3 days of chaos. You won't have been listening earlier, you're far too busy. I used to live on the Long Walk, and so some of the travelling community came one day, and the army came out of Windsor Castle, and they'd gone within about 11 minutes.
Yes.
They need rounding up as well,
You've just stolen my line. I would be so delighted for Extinction Rebellion to try a mass invasion of Windsor Castle. That would be a spectator sport worth queuing up for.
I promise you that 50 travellers and 50 caravans were off the Long Walk within less than 20 minutes. The army came out, they came down the gravel drive, and they had gone down Old Windsor Road.
Yes, you crack on Extinction Rebellion, and they'll also find plenty of cell spaces for them as well.
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it? And that sort of, I mean, why don't we launch a campaign? if you get a Just Stop Oil protester or an Extinction Rebellion, I mean, obviously you have to wear gloves because none of them want. Why don't you take one down to the police station and we have a 10 or 20 quid for one of them? What do you reckon?
I wouldn't want to get too close to any of them. And what could you talk about on the way to the police station with them?
Vegetarianism, probably.
Oh, yeah.
And soap. There is that whole thing when you look at where we are at and you think, I can see a pattern here, and we would be accused, I'm sure, of being cynical, but I look at what's happening and I think to myself, all those things that we who will have seen the last Labour government in the late 70s, before Blair, who dressed it up a bit, I think, all the things that I talked about, and I don't think the Tory party talked loudly enough about, are coming home to roost very quickly.
Well, in terms of crime and policing, we've had an example set.
Yes.
Robust policing,
yes.
Swift charging,
yes.
Swift justice,
yes.
Pretty stiff sentences.
Yes.
So let's just carry on with that, shall we? Across all criminality.
Completely agree. Peter Bleksley, as ever, they love you. I love you. Thank you for being on.